And I need.
Yeah, if you'll make me presenter, Tom.
Yeah, I need to make you the presenter.
Yeah, please.
Sorry about that.
Got it. Thank you, sir. All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is Mike. I recognize a lot of the names on the phone. For those of us who haven't met so far, thanks for coming. We'll look forward to meeting you. Those of you guys who know me, by the way, you will hopefully feel comfortable to interrupt and through this, right? I believe in interactivity and hands-on, so that means you guys have a conversational. I don't want to spend a lot of time lecturing you guys. This truly will be, hopefully will be a hands-on experience for everyone. Hey, I wanted to go over some of the basics, get everybody on kind of the same page from a PopFlow perspective, what it is, what it does, and kind of lay some of the groundwork to actually getting it implemented into a demo environment or a working environment that you can use during the training session to actually go through and build screen pops, test them out, and do some things like that. So for today, a little bit of education, and to make sure that you've got everything that we'll need for the next session that we do. First and foremost, did everybody get the link to the Dropbox folder that contains these two files? And by the way, guys, you guys should be seeing my screen now, yeah?
Yep, got it.
Awesome, thanks. Was anybody not able to download these two files that I sent? There should be two files that you guys will need.
I don't know that I got those, Mike. It's Matt.
That figures, Matt. You're gonna be a problem.
It's part of the MO.
Let's see. Let me get you out.
Hey, Mike, we put Jericho on that too?
Yeah, will do.
I haven't downloaded mine yet.
That one won't work anymore, Matt. What is
it? I don't think it's going to work anywhere. msumner@amberleaf.net.
We're going to need those for these calls, right? The files you sent this morning over.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
I downloaded mine yet.
I'm going to send it to Jarek. Who else? Shout them out here, guys. We'll get you included in this. Anyone else?
Add Ryan James, if you got me saved.
All right, let's see. Ryan, what is your email address, sir?
Ryan.James.
Okay.
Yes, no problem.
Hey.
Sorry, missed that.
Hey, this is Ian. I don't know if I need this. I think I'm already set, right? Or is this a newer version of something?
Ian, I'm pushing out a newer version, man.
Okay.
So you'll actually want part of these, yeah. And I noticed you were, hang on, let me back up just a second. Ian, Ryan, it was Ryan.James at what?
At Infolexa, INFOLEXA.com.
Got it, sir. Okay, coming to you. And Ian, I think I saw it pop up, Ian Hunger, which I don't think is right.
No.
And I'm shooting you an update. Anyone else that I'm missing? So I got Matt, I got Ryan, and I got Ian, copy and Jarek. All right. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Let me get that. Let's see if I still got that link pasted in there. All right, coming at you guys. So first and foremost for today, you'll want to download those files. Make sure that you can download them without any problems. We will, like I said, we'll be using those not only today, but primarily next session on Thursday, I believe it is, to actually deploy it. Ian, to your point, that'll just be an update for you. It'll go a little faster, right? But there are updated files. What I'm sending you guys, just so that you know what you're dealing with here, is a preview release of PopFlow. There's two files here. In those files are our standard licensing bundle. which includes all of the things that are required to actually deploy PopFlow into a Service Cloud instance. That will be a requirement for the class. If you guys don't have a demo instance or something of that nature that you can deploy it to, you will be sorely disappointed in the class, because it's about 95–98% of the time is spent hands-on in Service Cloud working with PopFlow. So make sure that you got a demo instance to deploy it to. What we'll do is use these files next week or between next week, I keep saying, sorry, next session on Thursday, to deploy the product to anybody that had any problems deploying it, things of that nature. We'll make sure that everything's set up and running and licensed properly. The other file you'll find has some goodies. Just basic kind of classroom stuff we'll use as a part of the process. The one thing that you guys will need to know to this today before it's over, but there's installation instructions in here for how to deploy. There's an operations guide here that lays out the usability basics of POSSUM reference material here that we'll go through kind of through the course of the training. Anybody does have any issues downloading those files, if you find you got any corrupt zip files or anything like that, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Right, I'm Mike.Hensley@OpenMethod, so just let me know to that if you have any trouble out of those. So what we'll do today, guys, what I'd like to do is just, again, a little foundation set to kind of prep us for the training class. Some of this stuff is going to be old hat to you guys, because I know that I've worked with you in the past, others not so much, and that's okay. That's the whole intent today, is to get everybody on the same page so that we're on equal footing when we hit the ground running next week during training. What we'll do is go through a little bit of what is Open Methods, what is PopFlow, what is its purpose, what's the value prop, and then we'll look at the installation process and kind of get that process kicked off, getting it installed into your demo environment, so that next week we can finish licensing it, make sure everybody can access it and play with it and that sort of thing. And then questions at the end, if that sounds good with everybody. So jumping right into things. One of the things that we will provide to you guys is our standard slide deck. So for those of you guys who may not be as familiar with Open Methods, there are actually a couple of different products that we make, that we provide. One called Harmony, that is focused around all things omni-channel. It is providing a media bar inside of Service Cloud that's capable of controlling not only channels that originate within Service Cloud, and providing all of the queue kind of routing that goes along with that. In other words, giving customers the ability to have their ACD, whatever that might be, route not only the phone calls like they've always done, but also chat and emails that originate within Service Cloud through their ACD. That's Harmony. We won't be focusing on Harmony for the sake of this conversation. We're going to keep it very focused to PopFlow, which is the other product that we provide. And if I were, and this is my version of a condensed sales pitch, guys. So if I were to give you the brief of PopFlow, really the goal of PopFlow is to change what, historically speaking, has been an extremely painful process to create custom screen pops. Meaning, in the old days, if I wanted screen pop, I had to pull in developers. I had to get somebody that knew how to get data about the calls, when a call came in, what information we had about the call, right? Who's calling? What do they want? Why are they calling me? Get attached call data associated to a call out of an ACD or out of an AIVR, get that information, and then do something with it. In other words, I had to program some kind of screen pop. It was a custom development effort, right? And if you think about the complexities around that type of requirement that involves a lot more than just, hey, developer, write me some code, here you go, it's perfect, right? Those are, those processes are always pretty lengthy. There's some type of requirements that have to be defined. You communicate those out to the developers. They, generate some code, and hopefully they get it right. You place some test calls, test things out. This goes back and forth until we agree upon, yeah, you did it right, let's deploy it, and then I've usually got to roll some kind of custom code out to the desktops to make that screen pop work. The trouble is once people, what we were seeing is once people went through that process, the process was usually just long enough and just painful enough that people didn't ever want to change it, right? So as their business requirements changed, their screen pops didn't, and at some point they'd usually just become not applicable to the business anymore, so they just turn them off or not even worry about whether or not they really did anything useful. They weren't really all that focused on improving the customer experience or decreasing average handle time. Once they got that initial savings, they just kind of left it alone. They never went back and tried to improve it any further. So what we did, we tried to take that whole paradigm, if you will, and change it so that your typical Service Cloud administrator could do all of that. They could create a custom screen pop without having to write custom code. They could test it natively within Service Cloud, and they could deploy it very simply, just like Service Cloud deploys, without having to push any custom code out to an agent's workstation. Right? And that was our goal with creating PopFlow. And we feel like we did a pretty decent job of that for first shot. Obviously, some of the value prop around that, good Lord, I hate painting screens. Give me 10 minutes while this screen updates. Some of the value prop around that, obviously, the core features on the left that we try to focus on is that drag and drop. The way we say it, automation of complex custom CTI. Well, don't code drag and drop, right? We don't want people having to write code. And to provide plug-and-play integration with common contact center apps, right? In other words, what triggers the screen pop? Is it an ACD? Is it a telephone? Is it an IVR? Is it some other application? We needed to make it fairly simple for people to get data into PopFlow so that we could do something with that data, i.e. give them a screen pop. And then make those screen pops reusable, right? So that they could be applied to different centers, outsourcers, things of that nature. Obviously, some of the benefits in doing that PopFlow way is a more rapid and inexpensive in-game, right? In other words, if we can deploy these things in days instead of weeks or months, and obviously by giving that kind of functionality to administrators, we're alleviating a lot of the expense typically associated to historical screen pop creation, right? The developers and all of the testing and rollout. And what we see through that, by automating, whether it's workflow or workspace automation, improving workspace automation, what we're seeing as a general rule of thumb is roughly a 30-second reduction in average handle time for customers. Now, in some places, it's not that high, right? In some places, we're 15, 20 seconds. In other places, it's much higher than that. We've seen customers go as high as saving a minute plus in average handle time. But those, as you guys know, those seconds count, right? A 15-second average handle time in the case that I'm referring to, one of our lowest average handle time reductions, resulted in a little over $1.5 million annually return for the customer. Pretty big money when you're talking about a lot of calls, right? Every little second counts. So some of that we'll talk about as we go through the class. We'll talk about how we get that and why that's different than a traditional screen pop that's already saving you a few seconds, and how we typically go a little further to shave off more, to save customer expense through the reduction of average handle time. Any questions on any of this stuff so far? I know it's some of this stuff, again, I apologize for being a repeat for some of you guys, but Any comments? Mike, you're boring us. Nothing?
No, but for our Service Cloud demo site that we're going to be learning on, do we have to have anything special enabled?
You do. You'll just need administrative access to that site. So as long as you've got that, you'll be okay.
Cool.
Outside of that, no other additional requirements, though. Cool. All right. Good deal. So guys, jumping into it, kind of next step in the process, what is this thing? What does it look like? PopFlow is actually comprised of a couple of different parts. There is kind of an agent-facing part that actually does the screen popping. We call that our runtime. There is more of the administrative portion of this that is PopFlow Studio, and PopFlow Studio is where your administrators, etc., where you guys will be going to actually create screen pop logic, custom screen pops, and testing them and deploying them and things of that nature. All of those components, though, just run inside of Service Cloud standard add-in framework. So, for example, here in my demo site, I'm just logged into our demo site. You can see several open methods add-ins loaded. We'll talk in more detail about what each of these things are and what they do. But again, we've got an add-in that is the runtime, what we call the interaction handler that actually does the screen popping for the agents while they're taking calls. And then we've got what we, from an add-in perspective, call the designer, which is PopFlow Studio. What we're going to go through, and we'll start at the end of the session today, kind of the process for rolling this thing out. What we have at the end, we've rolled these things out properly. We'll have an Open Methods PopFlow Studio icon that you can launch the designer, use to launch the designer, and you can create as many different screen pops as you like. Now, we call these screen pops interaction workflows. So if you hear me shift back and forth between those two lingo, those two descriptions, you know what I'm talking about. When I say interaction workflow, I'm actually referring to a screen pop. But within Studio here, I can create as many different screen pops as I like. For example, and by the way, those of you who know me know I can't type and talk at the same time, so forgive the pregnant pauses here. If I were just to create a new screen pop, I'm brought into our designer, and I can just drag and drop what we call reusable activities out onto the design canvas to make screen pops do whatever I want them to do. So for example, just to create a very basic screen pop, I could say when a call comes in, automatically go do a lookup inside of Service Cloud, look in the contact data, I'm in the contact table, look in some specific field, like the phone number fields, for a match on caller ID, Annie. So what I'm doing here, in this case, when a call comes in, I'm taking the caller ID and I'm using it to try to find a matching contact record in Service Cloud. Right? And I know that when I do that kind of lookup in Service Cloud, one of three things is going to happen. I'm either going to find one good match, I'm going to find a bunch of matches, multiple matches, or I'm not going to find any match at all. And I can just continue to drag and drop in this vein until I get my screen pop logic doing what I want it to do. So for example, if I don't find a match, maybe I want to automatically create a contact. And I can even set field values, right? I can dump data into Service Cloud. So maybe I want to take the caller ID and put it into the office phone field, right? If I have to run a report, any standard Service Cloud report, this would be my search report, right? So that I can show them what matching contact records I've found. And I can pass that report filter criteria, like the caller ID. Let's automatically filter that report by caller ID so they don't have to go searching again. If I find a single match, let's automatically create a new incident. And let's associate the incident to the contact that we found automatically. Now I know at this point, guys, some of you, actually, again, sorry for the repeat. For those of you guys who don't understand everything that I just went through, don't sweat it. That's what the class is for. We're going to show you how to use all of these activities, what they do, what they mean, how they work, etc. in more regular detail. And so you show you some of the things that you can do as well, you know, in terms of customizing PopFlow, etc. So we'll get into that deeper. But the net of it is I've just used the designer to create a basic screen pop. You know, this might equate to 20, 30, 40 hours worth of development in the old days. Now it's just drag and drop. But once I've created it, I'll also have the ability to test it out here directly within Service Cloud. So for example, I can generate test calls that in this case, I'm creating a voice call with this specific caller ID, Annie. I could input any other data here that I expect to come in with the call, like if I was expecting in the real world to receive information from the IVR, we may get those in key value pairs. I can key in those key value pairs to emulate a call coming in, and when I execute that, I actually see exactly what's going to happen inside of Service Cloud when that specific call comes in. In this case, we found a contact, Randy Alsop, so we automatically created a new incident, and we associated a contact that we found to that incident, just like I programmed it to. Right? So in this vein, I can continue on and test out all the different call scenarios, all the different possible call scenarios to make sure that my screen pop is functioning properly. Once it is, to roll it out, I simply have to map that training demo screen pop to whatever Service Cloud profile I want to be serviced by that screen pop. So for example, if I want my finance agents here to use that training demo, I just select it and save. And now the next time any of these agents log into Service Cloud, they'll have that screen pop. They'll get any screen pop into that logic that I defined here. And they're just that easy to not only create, but to go in and update and improve and change. So in that regard, what we're seeing very often, or what we did see very often in kind of legacy environments, is that concept of change, right? People didn't want to change something that was custom coded for their environment very often. They touched it as little as they had to. Here it's kind of a different dynamic. Our customers typically, you know, they'll usually start with very simple screen pops because they know they don't have to get it perfect right out of the gate. Let's just build a basic one and get screen pops going. We've shaved off some time. That's awesome. But then as soon as they do, they can go back in and they can change these screen pops. They can add logic to them. They can make them smarter, right? To shave more time off. They can go back and change those things daily, weekly, monthly, whatever they like. So we see people now kind of treating screen pops with more of an iterate to success kind of methodology than get it done right the first time and never touch it again, right? So another benefit of having a graphic designer that doesn't require development to use. Let's see. Any questions about any of that so far? That's kind of my nickel tour through the application. Obviously, we're going to get much deeper than that, but.
Hey, Mike, this is Ryan. Remind me, are there logs that run through the rules?
Tell me what you mean, Ryan. I'm not following you. Other logs that run through the rules. What are you looking for, sir?
Or that run through the interaction, right? So if I can see, obviously I can go through and I can test this, right, based on the different parameters that you defined. But
Yep.
Is there something that allows me to say, well, these are the logical steps that this ran through, so that I can see whether or not it's doing what I'm telling it to do what I thought I've told it to do?
We do, Ryan. We do, and that's a great question. So. I'm
thinking about the rules log for PopFlow.
Yeah, you got it. I'm with you. So we do have logs for PopFlow. As a matter of fact, let me give you just a quick peek. Let's see. So within PopFlow, obviously I just pulled up a PopFlow log, right, so I can see some of the data. And these things get pretty verbose sometimes. That's another thing that we'll do as a part of training. We'll kind of show you how to interpret some of this stuff so that you can see what's coming in, what's happening, and things of that nature. With that, you can see what data is coming in with a particular phone cloud. Obviously here I only put in my caller ID, so that's all that it's showing. If there were other pieces of data, we would see that as well. We actually have a new feature in our application that's coming out that allows you to add custom logging events to this log. So I can, at any point in my screen pop logic, I can drop a logging activity that basically puts whatever message I want into that log, right? So I can say, create that says, this was a happy path screen pop, you know, something of that nature. Now, I can't show you that in our demo system. I don't have that version loaded yet, but just so that you guys know and to call out very clearly, when we start installing this into your demo instance, and the reason that I wanted to make sure that that wasn't like a customer environment or something of that nature is that I'm actually providing a pre-release version of PopFlow that you can use that has some of these newer features in them already, like the logging event. And we'll get into more detail about why we did that. So when you're deploying to a customer instance, obviously we'd want you deploying an actual GA release of the product. But for the training, we wanted to give you the latest view into what's coming out, what's already built, what's coming out, and that sort of thing. So did that answer your question, Ryan?
Sure does. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Cool. All right, cool.
Thank you, sir.
No worries. Anyone else? Any questions? And guys, hopefully you're getting the gist of how this training is going to go. This is when I say we want to keep it very interactive. Man, I mean it. And you feel free to talk to me like I'm a member of the family and harass me at will. So don't be shy.
How often do you release?
Do we do the what?
How often do you guys have new releases? Is it like quarterly or?
Yeah, we typically will match the Oracle's releases, right? A release schedule. So we do quarterly releases.
Thank you.
Not a little tidbit along those lines. Not everybody necessarily will take a quarterly release, right? Like, you know, they may want to elect it. Other customers that may need to because of issue resolutions and things like that. But cool. All right, guys. So hopefully that foundation about focus so that you guys know kind of what to expect Kansas City. Again, it will be very hands-on. We're not going to PowerPoint you to death, and we're going to dig right into the application, start using it. Quite a lot of time will be spent inside of going through all the different activities that we talked about that I was just showing. Of those, what they do, how they work, going through some use cases, and actually having you guys hands-on build screen pops, right? And we'll kind of attack that in a mild, medium, wild kind of format, right? We'll start simple, get a little more advanced, and then we'll try to stump the heck out of you and see how far you can get. Again, very you know, thing that we're going to put you on the spot for, but just enough to make it interesting and fun. Having said that, I would point you now back to the PopFlow cert training files that I sent that hopefully everybody's had a chance to download now. If you take a look in there, the first thing you're going to want to call out, pay attention to, is the installation and licensing guide. So what we've done in this installation and licensing guide, if you have this PopFlow licensing bundle external package that I sent, the installation guide will literally walk you through step by step installing PopFlow. And we tried to truly make it a click by click by click kind of instruction set that anybody can use. Matter of fact, in a couple of cases where I knew I was working with, you know, knowledgeable Service Cloud administrators, i.e. they either already had Service Cloud administrative training or they had been Service Cloud customers for some time, we would actually just send them the deployment package and have them deploy it themselves, right? It's just a simple matter of essentially importing some custom objects, installing some add-ins, creating some workspaces and some reports, basic profile configuration, adding PopFlow to your navigations, and then licensing the product. Now, licensing the product is the one thing that is a little bit unique. Obviously, the custom objects that we have you import are surrounding our licensing strategy, our licensing scheme. So we use, for example, a custom object to contain a unique license file. And this license file is specific to the instance it's created for. So in other words, if I create an instance for example here, Open Methods Demo 2, I cannot take that license file and just copy and paste it into Open Methods Demo and it work, right? It is licensed to the specific, it's bound to the specific instance that you're deploying to. And we license at least the studio by username. So whatever name I use to log into Service Cloud, if I want to enable PopFlow Studio for that name, right, we'd need to know that name or names. We can do that for multiple people, obviously, multiple login IDs. But that's the way that we license PopFlow. So when we get to this point in the installation, obviously, you're going to need a license file. And we'll create those for you and get you up and running. And that's primarily what we'll focus on next week, is making sure that everything is installed, that you're able to get through an installation process, and that everybody was able to get it licensed and running. We'll spend the time. And next week will literally be, you know, if it's licensed and running and everything's working properly, then you're free to cut loose and you're ready for the class. If not, you can hang tight and we'll do any kind of troubleshooting that we need to do to make sure that PopFlow is running in your instance, so that when you get to training next week, we can hit the ground running and really dig in. But that's really all there is to installing PopFlow. What I would like to do, and the reason I wanted to make sure that you guys had the installation bundle, is I would like for you very simply to give it a shot. Try to install it. The only thing that you'll not be able to do yet is obtaining the license. Now, I would say, if you will, if you get to the point where you're ready to license it, if you will send me an email, I will make sure that you get an appropriate license for your instance. Obviously, I will need 2 pieces of information for that. I will need the name of your instance, the actual site name, right, i.e. whatever you're seeing up here. Need the user name or names that you want me to license for that instance. Admin1, M. Hensley, whatever the case may be, right? Whatever you use to log into that instance that you want to turn to.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
So when we come, so let's say it's all of us Aventus guys, and we're coming together. Do we need separate demo sites, each of us, or can we all use the same one?
You can all use exactly the same one. That's an excellent question, by the way. What I wouldn't tell you will be not only helpful, but I would say required, right, is that you each have a unique login ID to that site, and we've licensed each.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, but that'll let you work at least all stepping all over each other, right? Good question. Good question. Now, having said that, guys, if you noticed, the way we laid out the directions, the instructions are very step step 4, right? For those of you who've already started exploring, that's where our licensing bundle is worked out to. There are certain files you're going to need for step 1. Step 1 tells you to import the custom objects, right? Here are the prereqs. Let's see. Step 1, import the custom objects, and we tell you how to do that. Well, when it's time for you to find the custom objects, they're located in a step 1 folder. There's your custom object. Same thing holds true for step 2. When it's time to install the add-ins, they're the latest versions of our add-ins, so on and so forth, all the way through the doc. So we try to make it very simple. No pressure, but there you go. It's a joke, guys. So, anyway, so hopefully you guys will be able to get that through that no problem. What I would ask you to do is get as much of it done as possible. If you get to step 6 where you're needing the license, email me the instance name and whatever login IDs you like, and I'll create the license for you. If you have any trouble at all, don't sweat it. That's what the next session is specifically for. It's to make sure that you guys all have a good working implementation of PopFlow to use for the class. And having gone through that process, then you're set and ready to go. The only other thing you need is just yourselves and KC when you're supposed to be there, and access to that instance. We'll provide everything else. All right.
So, Mike, this is Ian again. Troublemaker question. If I've already got everything installed and working, is there like a separate document that says, okay, so in my case, skip step 1 through 7, do 8, 9 through 14 you can ignore, but 15 through, I mean, is there like an upgrade?
Absolutely, there is, and this is a little insight to our upgrade process. I'll update all of the add-ins. You're done. The end.
Okay. Right. I didn't know if like the objects needed to be re-imported or anything magic like that. Okay, just not at all. It is update the add-ins and you're good to go. Let me give you a little heads up on this because you are installing a pre-release. Be careful where you install it, right? If you've got, Ian, I know that you've got some things loaded into demos that you do and things of that nature, right? If you create a screen pop using certain activities with this new version, they won't necessarily work in the older version if that activity didn't exist or it existed in a different fashion, right? So just kind of be aware of that. Do you foresee any reason that I'd need to go to a previous version?
I don't, because the only activities that we've added to it are like the we've made HTTP GET a standard feature. We've made the logging feature. We've made a couple of other things that are not. I doubt very seriously that anybody has used them. They were the for each entity activity, if you know what I'm referring to there.
Yeah. That makes sense.
As long as you're not the older versions, then you should be clear and free.
Cool. All right, then.
And then let me see if there's anything else I need to throw at you for this. Truly no pressure, right? Get as far as you can in this thing. I'm just shortcutting what we end up having to do next session on Thursday, right? So if everybody shows up Thursday and nobody's got any problems, we're done and ready to go, right? If we need us to do it, it's certainly not a problem. And then if you like, you can kind of get a sense, note that, and I just realized there's an agenda, an outdated agenda, but we're going to cover the same content. We're just going to spend different times doing it. If you get to browsing around out here in the files that I sent, you know that there'll be some slight changes to this, but everything licensed, and you want to take a tour through the operations guide, that would probably be the other thing that I'd say, for light reading. Certainly not required. We're going to go through this thing in granular detail, right? But familiarizing yourselves with it, that'd be great too. Cool. How are we doing on time? What do we have scheduled for this? Man, I'm going to give you guys back a little bit.
We're scheduled to 11:30.
Okay, no worries. So guys, at this point, I would say we call it there. We've accomplished what we needed to be accomplished. So I can give you, and we can pick this up on Thursday, finishing the deployments, making sure that everything is, all set on. At this point, I'm going to open it up to you guys and say if there's any questions. If you got any questions at all, now's a great time to throw them out there.
So our homework between now and Thursday is get the install instructions, follow those, send you our site name and login ID and alignment guide. Is that it?
You got it. Spot on. And harass if you need. So guys, you've got, let me just make sure that you guys have, actually I'll put it in the chat of the session, my email address. There you go. I just sent that to everybody. That's my email address. If and when you guys need a license, hit me on email. Questions or anything else, that's also a good, I'll keep an eye out for you. That's a good way to get in touch with me. But if all else fails, you can also hit me here, which is, that's also in the chat. Everybody getting that? And I mean anything at all. You guys don't hesitate. If you run into any issues, need a little help, or have questions, you feel free to just hit me on my mobile or an email. I'll get you either way. All right, guys. Any other questions you might can think of? I'm going to think of what you might need.
Sounds good here, Mike. Appreciate your help.
Excellent. Happy to do it. Well, guys, listen, I am excited to get all you guys trained up and using PopFlow. Be good to have some more PopFlow gurus in the world. Some good so that you guys know as we start going through the training, not only do we take harassment pretty well, but we roadmap directed toward customer partner suggestions. So you'll hear us ask quite a lot, how can we make it better? What can we do? Feel free to let me know. And that includes now, right, with the installation instructions and all that jazz. Do you see some problems? Point them out.
Are you going to ask us to drink?
Are you kidding? Have you not already? Man.
Yeah, that's served in the bar Monday night.
Listen, we won't go as far to ask you to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. It just looks like a mar.
That's right. Yeah, shoot. Well played, sir. Well played. I think we're at a wrap for today. You can have the remainder of your time back, and